Good afternoon, colleagues. Nice to see you all today. Welcome to our Cabinet meeting on Wednesday, the 12th of July. We'll start with item number 1, and that's apologies for absence. Any apologies, Anne? Okay, thank you very much for that. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Good stuff. We move on to item number 3 then, which are the minutes from our June Cabinet. These can be found on pages 3 to 10 of your packs. Members have all had an opportunity to read these minutes, so is somebody content to remove them as a true record? Thank you. Everyone content? Yeah? Okay, we'll move on to item number 4 on our agenda today then, which is the 2022-23 revenue budget outturn, and this can be found on pages 11 to 34 of the packs that we have before us. This first report explains the Council's outturn for the 2022-23 revenue budget and the key issues arising from that. Now, against a net budget of £343 million, the 2022-23 revenue outturn produced a net underspend after planned transfers to and from reserves of £5.1 million, which represents a 1.5% variance against budget. This final position represents an improvement on the position previously reported to Cabinet, mainly due to late unexpected grant funding, additional income and a slight reduction in demand in certain areas. So how has the underspend come about? The underspend of £5.1 million has arisen due to the following underspends against non-service budgets, specifically the general and COVID contingency budget. And Cabinet, you will recall that the contingency budgets were temporarily increased for 22-23 following COVID, none of which were required to balance the budget this year. Another contributing factor is overachievement of interest receivable due to interest rates rising, higher than anticipated investment balances, and increased savings on interest payable due to the delayed need to undertake borrowing, caused by slippage in our capital programme. In addition, the Council also underspent on the Council Tax Reduction Scheme. These underspends were, however, offset by spending in service areas due to increased demand and rising costs, resulting from the high inflationary environment, emergency placements within children's services, and demand for temporary accommodation within housing and communities were the two most significant areas of additional demand. The higher than anticipated pay award for NJC staff across the Council also significantly contributed to this position. Now, detailed explanations of the over and underspending against budgets can be found in section 2 of our report. Whilst the outturn is overall positive for the Council's finances, there are specific issues which have the potential to impact on the forthcoming year. A number of these issues were addressed as part of the 23-24 budget setting process, although some remain that could impact during this year, and these risks are explained in detail within section 4 of the report, and they continue to be monitored by the executive team. Moving on to consider our schools position, as schools variances are managed via individual schools' balances, the overall underspend of £5.1 million does not include the schools' position. For 22-23, schools collectively overspent by £1.3 million, which saw schools' balances reduced from £15.7 million to £14.4 million at the 31st of March 2023. In light of the significant level of savings that schools will need to make during the 2023-24 financial year, officers will continue to closely monitor school balances over the medium term as part of the Council's deficit avoidance and prevention strategy. So, considering the information before us, as part of this meeting, as a Cabinet, we're being asked to approve the use of this underspend. So what I'd just like to do before we move on to the consideration of that is open to any comments, general comments from Cabinet members on the report that you have before you. Colleagues? Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. It's just a quick comment, really. I just want to thank our schools. I know how incredibly hard they have worked to set a balanced budget in these incredibly challenging times. I also know that they do work hard with our local our finance officers to ensure those budgets are set, and I know they're determined to work closely during this year to ensure that they spend wisely and carefully, because we do need to sustain that forensic look on their spend as the year goes forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution there. Councillor Petruni.
Oh, got it. Thank you, Leader. Without sounding like a negative Nelly, I just want to reiterate, although the underspend is welcome news and it's better than we hoped or anticipated, let's not underestimate the challenges Council faces going forward, and that no one should be under the impression that now we're awash with money and all things are great and they can get what they want. We all know the interest rate environment and the huge pressure on not only council services due to interest rates and inflation, but also on households, which will mean more pressure on council services going down the line. And you can already see the overspend pressures in housing, social care, children's service out care placements, are the most vulnerable citizens. That is not going to abate. That's going to stay, I hope, at the same level, or probably increase given the general cost of living payments. So no one should see the underspends and say, great, our Newport awash with money. We have significant pressures and we don't know what the UK government will do in its September or autumn budget, which could be detrimental. And let's not underestimate the forecast for local government coming in the forthcoming year, generally across Wales, is a shortfall between 300 and 400 million pounds. So I don't want anyone in Newport, and none of the Cabinet do, I know for sure, nor the Leader, take this with any kind of glee. We are facing still a bleak picture, and we should be mindful of that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Petruni. Absolutely correct. There's still a huge degree of uncertainty around that, and we need to be mindful of that. Any further comments from colleagues? Okay, so the one-off funding that we have available to us, it is extremely helpful in terms of helping the Council delivering it on its corporate priorities. But as Councillor Petruni has already advised, we need to be mindful of the pressures that we face going forwards. Now, Section 5 of our report actually details how the 5.1 million is proposed to be used. And so there's almost £1 million to support service delivery, including the provision of transport for St Andrews and Millbrook Primary School pupils, and empty homes enforcement interventions, financial assistance and debt recovery. Exactly those points that both the Deputy Leader and Councillor Petruni have highlighted, the need to support these essential services. We also need to consider making 1.9 million available to manage operational risks in the context of reduced contingencies and pressure on budget. And I'd like to move on to the residual balance, which is around 2.17 million. Now, we've been considering allocating this to the capital reserve to boost the overall level of capital headroom, and in doing so, to provide additional capacity to be able to support a number of one-off projects in relation to our capital programme. And colleagues, you will be aware from our discussions that we need to clarify those projects in due course. But as a Cabinet, and we have discussed this very recently, we are absolutely committed to ensuring that some of that funding is prioritised for investment in highways in order to address the most problematic areas of potholes and other issues. So we will be considering that in due course. But I need to be absolutely clear that given the current external environment and the situation we find ourselves in, we will also be moving, or I'm seeking your agreement today, that we will also move a proportion of that money to our third sector partners in order to help alleviate holiday hunger for the next 6 weeks across our city. That final figure yet to be determined. Oh, right, I'm finished yet, but go on. Councillor Harvey.
I got excited then, Leader. My bracelet fell off. I am sorry. Holiday hunger is a real thing. People said, oh, I had a message over the weekend telling me that people only apply for food parcels because it's free food. Yay, let's grab it. Well, maybe they should walk a mile in someone's shoes, because the people we go to every week without fail, 95% are working families. They're in work poverty. It is a thing. It's not a fantasy, and it's going to get worse. So I fully support and endorse helping these children be fed through the summer, because at the end of the day, they're kids. They've done nothing wrong.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Harvey. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. I completely support this proposal. Our families have become used to having school holiday vouchers, those children on free school meals. It's become something they've become reliant on. They've budgeted for it. And for the news that came through in the last fortnight, that Welsh Government are no longer able to fund these vouchers over, we just had school vouchers for a weekly period. It's now a 6-week period, and it is of desperate concern to all of us how these children will be fed during this holiday period. These families have got no other additional income, and we need to absolutely, it is a priority for us, and we need to absolutely ensure that there's access to food during this time. And I'm really, really grateful that we're going to support those families through that community supply and that community support. I think it's excellent news. Thank you.
Thank you for that, colleagues. Thank you. So, of course, those final decisions on that do need to be clarified, but that is the proposal today. Now, the total reserves balance on March 2023, following the transfers set out within the report, will reduce to 138.9 million from the balance of 151.9 million a year ago. And the significant movements, as I'm sure you've already read, are set out within section 5 of the report. So in conclusion, colleagues, we're asked to note the outturn position, agree the use of the underspend, as we've just done, note the school's outturn, and agree the report. Are colleagues content to agree the report? Thank you very much for your contributions and your support. We move then to item number 5 on our agenda today, which is the 2022-23 capital outturn and additions. And this is on page, you can find this between pages 35 and 60 of your packs. It's our final report of the year on capital activity and provides us with an overview of the final amount of capital expenditure incurred in this year, compared with the allocated budget. Now, as part of this, the report outlines the level of slippage and underspend incurred and provides an update on the level of available capital headroom. In addition to this, the report outlines the additions to the programme that have been identified and requests our authorisation as a Cabinet for their inclusion. So if we turn then to consider the report, the first section outlines the movement in capital budget since the last report was presented to us in February. The total value of additions and amendments is 51 million. However, more than half of that was formally approved as part of agreeing our capital strategy for 2023-24. Therefore, the value of additions that require approval, the majority of which are externally grant funded, stands at 18.5 million. And these additions took the total budget for the year to 91.8 million. And I'm sure you've all read the breakdown of those that can be found in Appendix A. Considering the outturn then against the revised budget, total expenditure of 61.2 million was incurred, and this resulted in a variance of 30.6 million. The variance comprised a net underspend of 47,000 and, more significantly, slippage totalling 30.55 million. Now, it's necessary, as you'll all be aware, for this slippage to be carried forward into future years in order to complete ongoing and previously approved schemes. The overall value of slippage has increased by 3 million since the last report, and I'm sure you'd all agree with me that, relatively speaking, this is a small increase compared with that seen in previous years. And this is mainly due to the fact that a number of large schemes are now underway, but also because of reprofiling undertaken in recent months. It should be noted, however, that the overall level of slippage is still significant and is something that needs to be managed robustly in future years. In addition, a further review of the 23-24 capital budget is required in order to ensure that it reflects a realistic profile. Currently, that budget stands at nearly 95 million, and it will be a challenge to deliver it. And it's therefore necessary to reprofile this across the remainder of the programme in order to increase the probability of delivering against the budget and minimising the level of slippage reported in future years. The report also enables us to consider the detail of capital headroom currently available, which is available to us to support new schemes. Now, this now stands at 9.774 million after allowing for two pre-commitments against this funding. The majority of the balance is held within the capital expenditure reserve. Whilst the headroom has recently had a significant boost, there remains a need to tightly control its use so that it's available only for the most critical issues as and when they emerge. In addition, any opportunity to further increase the headroom will need to be taken so that it's possible to support as many priorities as possible and also ensure that sufficient funding exists to respond to any cost increases in relation to existing schemes. And we know, for example, they are currently driven by rising construction industry costs. And we've already highlighted today in the previous item about our consideration of continuing to improve our capital headroom position. So, colleagues, at that stage, I'll just open for any contributions you may wish to make. Councillor Batrouni.
Just to welcome the headroom element in the paper. We all know we can't borrow. Well, we can borrow, but the interest rates are ridiculous. And so there's no room. So it's prudent and wise to do it now and increase our headroom and give ourselves that space and that flexibility going forward. So I welcome that move.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. You're absolutely right about capital headroom and being prudent in what we do, but, you refer back to the previous paper and the funding into the Band B programme. That is absolutely about finding that capital to support the additionality of costs. Brexit still has a role to play in increased cost of supplies, and our increasingly difficult time to find those qualified workforce it's fundamentally made a difference to what we expected to pay pre-Brexit, pre-COVID, and what we have to pay now. So I'm grateful for that prudent, careful management of our capital headroom to ensure that we can fund our projects going forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. Any further comments or contributions from Cabinet members? No? Okay. So we've concluded our overview of the report, and I welcome and appreciate your contributions. So as a Cabinet, we've been asked to approve the additions detailed in the report, totalling 18.546 million, and to approve the transfer of slippage of 30.553 million into future years. We're also asked to note the capital expenditure outturn position and note the level of capital headroom currently available. Members content to approve the report? Thank you very much for that. Moving on then to the next item on our agenda, item number 6, our Welsh Language Annual Report. This can be found on pages 61 to 126 of your packs. Now, I welcome the presentation of this report, There's been a lot of discussion around this already within the Council, and I really value the opportunity for us to discuss it as a Cabinet as well. So I'm really pleased to present the report, which details our progress in complying with Welsh language standards as part of the Welsh Language Wales Measure 2011. And the report provides an overview of the Council's progress in meeting the standards, includes information required to be published on an annual basis, a summary of key achievements during the year, and, of course, priority areas for future work. And although this is a Newport City Council report, engagement, development and co-production have been at the heart of all activities and events. So, Diane Pow. Well, turning to consider the report, members will note the key highlights from the year, including the significant increase in the delivery of Welsh language awareness sessions for our own City Council workforce, with 99 members of staff being trained. The adoption of the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan 2022 to 2032. And this plan, I'm really pleased to say, was approved by Welsh Government, and it was a real pleasure to have the opportunity to discuss this with the Minister, along with my colleague, the Deputy Leader. We've also launched our Welsh language skills policy, demonstrating our commitment to the Welsh language through recruitment and training. And of course, the report also identifies our key priorities for 2023-24, including building on the creative partnership arrangements developed outside the public and voluntary sector to better raise the profile of Welsh language across Newport, with opportunities at Dragons Rugby and Newport County AFC. Delivering a cohesive approach to Welsh language skills development across our One Newport partners through our Right Skills Board, and an even greater focus on recruitment, retention and development of Welsh speakers across all service areas within the Council, and facilitating and supporting events throughout the year, looking at the cross-cutting themes around equality, diversity and inclusion. And I think at this point, I'd just like to invite the Cabinet member to comment on the report. Councillor Petruni.
Diolch, Leader, and I welcome this report. And I just want to emphasise our absolute commitment to promoting the Welsh language in the city and in the region. We are a proud Welsh local authority, and that was never diminished. And I just want to, but we can't do it alone as a council to transform and improve the Welsh language across this city. It has to be a co-production, as the leader has said. It has to be the community as well as the council. That's the only way you can get the change and the increase in Welsh speakers in this city. The council just can't do it alone. And that's why the COVID had a massive impact on our progress on this agenda, because people couldn't get together, community groups couldn't get together, and that's why going forward, as the leader has outlined, the partnership working, now people can get together in large gatherings. We'd hope to see an acceleration on this agenda.
Thank you very much for that, Cabinet Member. And I'd like to thank you for the work that you've done in leading this forwards. And I'd also like to thank Councillor John Harris for supporting the work in his role as Welsh language champion. So, diolch yn fawr. Any comments from Cabinet colleagues? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Leader. As is now customary, I think, that under your leadership, I will say a few words in Welsh. And then I'll come back and say the same thing in English. So mwy na 20 mlynedd yn ôl pam gyrhaeddais I yn gas newydd, roedd bron iawn popeth I ymwneud â'r iaith Gymraeg yn frwydr I fyny'r allt. Erbyn hyn yr ydym yn gweld yn awr ymwybyddiaeth o'r ddinas yn tyfu a chyngor ragweithiol yn cysylltu â'r gymuned. Mae'n gywir y bydd y ffocws le nesaf ar bartneriaethau I datblygu'r staff ein hunain, a mae'r gwaith hwnnw yn gwaith ein ffrindiau yn y ddinas yn gwneud gwahaniaeth mawr, dwi'n meddwl. Mae'n ysgolion Cymraeg, bandiau Cymraeg, gwyliau Cymraeg, fel Mari Llwyd a gwaith gwych a menter a Cabel Sion ac eraill yn canol y ddinas. Diolch yn fawr i'r aelod cabinet a'r swyddogion am y gwaith I baratoi yr adroddion a trwy gydol y flwyddyn a mae gwaith i helpu sicrhau dyfodol llwyddiannus yr iaith Gymraeg yn ein cyngor. So leader, more than 20 years ago, when we first arrived in Newport, I think almost everything in relation to the Welsh language was an uphill struggle. And I remember when you first allowed us to speak Welsh in this chamber, certainly, it was a little bit of a lonely job in those days, but now it's changed, really. Now when we come in now, we're actually walking around and we're talking to staff members on a regular basis now in Welsh, and I think that just shows how the Council is progressing. It's right for us to focus in the coming year on partnerships and developing our own staff in all our service areas. And the work we do as a Council and with our friends and partners does have an impact on the city. We've seen Newport's commitment to the Welsh education. We see our pubs putting on Welsh bands, something which we really haven't seen in the past. And we see festivals like the Mari Lwyd festivals in the city centre and in other wards, bringing the old traditions and songs to the streets of our city. I'm proud, as a Welsh speaker, to be part of this council in embracing the positives of our beautiful language. So I thank our Cabinet members for organisational transformation, for our champion, yourself, Leader, and our officers for their efforts in producing this report, and throughout the year in supporting the language grow in our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Hughes. I can't tell you how delightful it was to hear you commend the report in that way. Thank you so much. Deputy Leader.
Diolch, Leader. It's fantastic. In the last year, our Welsh Education Strategic Plan has been adopted. What has to be noted, though, we certainly met with the Welsh Minister for Education, but what was recognised by Welsh Government is the strength and strategic focus of our report, specifically in our focus on developing opportunities for the teaching of Welsh throughout Newport, and as opportunities that will be developed over the next 10 years. It is a really strong plan that we can be proud of. Already, the West Strategic Plan has been revisited and developed further. A community officer has been appointed within the local authority, and who's already working with our Welsh medium head teachers to ensure resources are uploaded and readily available on the hub. It's been noted that a key priority in our schools has to ensure that all families are now made aware of Welsh medium education options across Newport, so the offer is readily available, and importantly to understand the benefits of receiving a bilingual education. There's a specific focus in our Welsh medium schools in supporting parents of children who are receiving Welsh medium education, and I have seen this at first hand, parents being invited into schools to participate in those learning opportunities and welcome to be part of that, support with homework, learning to speak Welsh. Those opportunities are made readily available, so parents can participate in their educational journey that their children participate already moving on from my words out. But thank you, Leader. It's an excellent to see our annual Welsh language report being published again, and I look forward to next year's report, which will be even better. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. And I mean, we do enjoy a shared commitment to the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, and we will continue to drive that forwards together. So thank you so much for that. Councillor Marshall.
Diolch, Leader. It is a very interesting report, which does look obviously at promoting the Welsh language. There is a number of means, for opportunities and things like that there within the local authority and elsewhere. I was at the Mainly Festival recently. Obviously, a lot of leaflets, a lot of promotional stuff. Really good to see the promotions there. I remember an event that Councillor Hughes and myself went to with Hungarian young children, learning English, Welsh, and obviously Hungarian bits and pieces, and the mixture of the languages, which is really good there. And building upon that young people side of things there, the city itself has seen the increase of use of language, especially within the young people, and especially young people going to schools, Welsh medium schools, going out there. Now, that kind of reminds me of the days when I studied in Swansea. I'm not going to say how long ago that was, because even that's starting to make me feel old. And Amanda, yesterday? Okay, yeah. But it was not uncommon to hear Welsh language when you're going around town by the banks or anything else like that there. something that I haven't really heard until recently in Newport, which is a shame, but it's actually really good in some ways because it's starting to have that focus now. Being able to hear that within young people speaking or trying to practice terms, can I go to the loo or whatever it might be, utilising that Welsh language. And I think the big thing is moving forward, especially with the 1 million Welsh speakers plan on a national level, is about those that obviously speak Welsh in a formal capacity, so in our workplaces and schools, are able to have more opportunities to do so in a more social manner. So it's not just, kind of in the playground that they are, in the classroom, they are doing it in the playground, in their playgroups and things, whatever else might be. But I think also, as elected members, we must also keep an eye on the effects of our own wards. Like in the Gare, for example, we have seen on the local level the increase of Welsh speakers in that level, but also the fact of the abilities and the opportunities moving forward. For example, I know that there's a Gare Community Family Learning Organisation that runs interactive workshops around the Welsh culture, language, conversational Welsh, and just basically trying to create a good space for people to come together to be able to practice that Welsh. Myself doing Dysgu Siarad Cymraeg, being Irish coming to Wales, trying to learn. I might slaughter it sometimes, but I do try on that side. But it's about making sure that people are able to practice it and have that safe space to be able to practice it. So on that, Leader, mae Gymraeg on aeth I bawb. Diolch.
Thank you very, very much for that, Councillor Marshall. And I'm sure it was really helpful to us all then to hear those really good examples of what's happening at the community level. It really does illustrate, doesn't it, that something that we're planning strategically is actually filtering through. So thank you. Really appreciate your comments there. Thanks. Any further comments or contributions? Councillor Forsey.
Brynhanda. I think we've all agreed this is a very interesting report, and it shows a great variety of activities and actions to promote the Welsh language, from singing and cooking and family activities. An important aspect of promoting Welsh language is to promote the Welsh culture, and I think we need to cherish that. There are a number of links to videos in this report, and I think it's really good to watch them, and I certainly enjoyed watching the children and the family activities. There are a very low number of complaints about Welsh language, 3 directly to NCC and 2 to the Welsh Commissioner, and it's good to see that actions were taken and these complaints were resolved. We can also see, as others have mentioned, that we're working with partners to promote Welsh, and I particularly like the Welsh flashcards produced for Newport Live staff, and next time I go to a board meeting I'm going to see if I can have a look at those. So, diolch.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Forsey. Thank you. Any further contributions on that item? So, a Cabinet content to consider and note the contents of the report? Diolch. We move to item number 7 on our agenda today, then, the Corporate Risk Register update. This is for quarter 4, and these information can be found on pages 127 to 172 of the packs. Now, this period covers the period from the 1st of January 2023 to the 31st of March. As Cabinet members, we're being asked to note, consider the contents and the monitoring of these risks in the risk register. And I know that I say this every time, but, just to be consistent, to be absolutely clear, our risk management policy and corporate risk register enables our administration and our officers to effectively identify, manage and monitor the risks which could prevent us from achieving our strategic priorities and to undertake our statutory duties as a local authority. Now, the Quarter 4 risk report will also be presented to the Council's Governance and Audit Committee later this month to review the Council's risk management process and governance arrangements. So, to be absolutely clear on this, as a Cabinet, we review the risks. The Audit and Risk Committee, Governance and Audit Committee review the risk management arrangements and governance processes and can feed back to us on that. If we turn to consider the report, at the end of Quarter 4, Newport City Council had 45 risks recorded across our 11 service areas. And those risks that are deemed to pose the most significant risk in the delivery of our corporate plan and our services are escalated to the corporate risk register, and this is so we can ensure that they're monitored. At the end of quarter 3, 14 risks were recorded in the corporate risk register, 8 severe risks and 6 major risks. In comparison to quarter 3, there was one risk, eliminate profit from social care, which was escalated from children's services. And I do feel the need to outline some of the background and context to this. As a council, we're commencing a significant programme of work to support the Welsh Government's policy to eliminate profit from children's social care. And in response, the council has seen providers withdrawing from the market, which means the council is on occasion having to make placements with practices operating without registration, which is a criminal offence under the Social Services Act. The council is fully aware of the risk being raised here and agree that this is a corporate risk. We're working very hard with providers, Care Inspectorate Wales and other partners to ensure that children are being looked after with the best providers for their needs. And it's important to really emphasise that within that we are ensuring that we are fully compliant with the judgments of the family courts with regard to these issues. Now, one risk, Ash-Dieback disease, was also de-escalated from the corporate risk register to the Environment and Public Protection Risk Register at the end of quarter 4. If we consider the context of this, I'm sure you'll be aware that following the identification and assessment of Ash-Dieback disease across Newport, the council had taken immediate action to remove trees with Ash-Dieback from high-risk areas. Now, funding allocated by the council has also been used to replace the trees that have been removed, ensuring that we meet our ecological commitment to protect and enhance Newport's environment. The service area will continue to monitor and report against this risk and the work to remove infected trees and its replacement programme. The risk report also shows 2 risks in relation to the stability of social service providers and pressure on adult services, both improving since quarter 3. Now, both risk scores have decreased from 25 to 20 at the end of quarter 4, and the stability of social services providers with adult services has seen improvements to the flow of brokered packages of care. However, and I think this is key, colleagues, we are fully aware that provider services do remain in a very precarious position, and the council will continue to monitor the situation closely during 2023-24. The pressure on adult services has also improved following the recruitment to key posts within the service. And it's important that we continue to support social workers and supporting officers within our social services who provide a pivotal role to safeguard our most vulnerable residents and carers in Newport. The remaining 12 risks were reported with the same risk score as quarter 3. So, having provided an overview of that report and some contextual information for colleagues, I'll just pause at this point and open this up to comments. Would anybody like to comment? Councillor Marshall.
Diolch, Leader. Just to highlight, obviously within children's services and the difficulties around that, the pressures that are experienced. It is a challenging environment, but the department and the teams, the managers, service managers work, really, really hard to provide the best possible care for the young people that are needed. And it's just to kind of thank them, even though we hear about these pressures all the time, it's just that general thanks for everything that they do, because it's really, really difficult environment, but they're really innovative. They do really, really good things really well. So it's just a thank you, amongst the pressures. It's not without thanks. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Marshall. I'm sure we all echo your thanks there to those outstanding officers working in a very challenging environment. Thank you very much for that. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. As noted on the risk register, school finances remained in an amber position. I'm aware there was a slight risk increase in risk analysis in relation to budgets. And I note it's a key responsibility of all of us to ensure that we continue to work with our schools and support them with their financial decisions. It's never been more of an important time to ensure that schools reach out and work with our council officers. Demand for ALN and SEN support, whilst the risk analysis has not changed, this remains a focus. Needs within our schools are increasing as children are more and more being diagnosed with additional needs. But we're working to address this, and examples of this are the recent expansion of Ysgolpel in Duru, and which is a school that's been specifically set up for children with ASD. And we've recently agreed to the new LM provision that will be opening in Llanwern in the autumn term. And this is to support children who live in the east of our city, where the level of support that they need is additional to our mainstream education. So hopefully we continue to address those issues by addressing those risks. Education in relation to out-of-school placements always remains a concern. There are times when we've not got the ability to manage some children whose extreme specific needs. We have not got the facilities to support them. But again, additionally, we've got the opening of our SD provision, which means that those we've not, Maze Glass, Ebu, I beg your pardon, can actually be used for additional needs. So we are working to ensure that risk is kept at a stable level, but it's something that we constantly have to keep an eye on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Leader. Like yourself, I want to echo what Steve has said. Our staff work incredibly hard. They're in, day out. If they can't fix it one way, they are very quick to work on the go, to find a way that makes it work. I think we're very lucky that we got the staff that we do have, and it doesn't go amiss. But I think what people need to realise is when a judge in a courtroom dictates a child has to go out of county, we got no control over that. We just pick up the bill. So it's not that we want to send them away. A judge has done that, and we just got to pay for it. But thank you to all the staff.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Harvey. And as you say, our absolute priority is ensuring that the needs of the child will be met. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to highlight as well that, a lot of the decisions and a lot of the pressures that our teams are under are not because of what the council are doing. It's because of external pressures that we're getting from Westminster. We've got providers who are businesses in themselves who are experiencing the same problems that we're all experiencing as households. They're having increased bills, they're having increased pressures on their challenges on their staffing, and all those pressures that come from Westminster trickle down. And they trickle down and they impact on our staffing, they impact on the way that we work, they impact on the ability to us to face those challenges in relation to financial pressures. So I think it's just important to get over the message, really, that when people see those decisions being made in Westminster, this is the trickle down we talk about when we get to that budget eventually. And eventually it hits the budget, and eventually it hits the householders in our residence. And that's exactly what's happening here. Our staff are working incredibly hard. They're dealing with immense pressure because of decisions made in Westminster. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that, Councillor Hughes. Any further contributions on this item from colleagues? Okay, so to conclude, we're asked to agree the contents of the Corporate Risk Register and to continue monitoring the risks and the actions being taken to address the risks identified in the report. Are members content to approve the report? Thank you. Thank you all for that. We move then to item number 8 on our agenda today, and this is our external pressures cost of living report. This is on pages 173 to 176 of the packs, and you will recall, colleagues, the importance of this being a standing item on our agenda. And the purpose of this is to provide members with an update on the main external pressures facing the council, our businesses, our residents and communities. And the cost of living crisis, as we've already touched upon here today, remains one of the main areas of concern for our residents, our businesses and services. For the second month, the UK's inflation rate in May was 8.7%, with prices for food and non-alcoholic drinks rising between April and May. Now, within the report, as you will have seen, there's a link to a citizens' advice survey finding that as many as 1 million people were cut off their broadband in the last year as the cost of living crisis left them unable to afford internet access. Now, we all know, don't we, in the modern world, the importance of being able to access services through the internet. The impact on that, on our families, is quite significant in terms of their ability to access the support that they need. Now, as leader of the council and as chair of One Newport, I continue to advocate for partnership working as being absolutely vital in supporting our residents and businesses. And I urge residents who are experiencing difficulties to contact the council for information and signposting on the advice and support available. You can contact us in person, by phone, or by visiting our support and advice pages on the website. At the local level, you can contact your councillors in your community, and they will help to guide you in the direction of support and advice. Please, please do not suffer this alone. Please get in touch. If we turn to consider the report itself, the report provides information on how our officers from across the council and partnership agencies continue to work together to coordinate and provide with our residents with that vital support, advice and guidance. It outlines the cost of living events that are taking place across the city to provide opportunities for residents to access free help, support and advice on managing debt and maximising income. From September 2023, Newport schools will have implemented the Welsh Government's universal primary free school meals across Key Stage 2, meaning that all primary-aged pupils will be able to benefit from this initiative. And that's actually something that, as an administration here in Newport, we've chosen to accelerate because this was a manifesto commitment. This formed one of our promises to the people of Newport that we would drive this forwards as quickly as we could for our children in our city. Now, as part of our commitment to the Ukrainian communities, with the planned closure of the super sponsor scheme, our officers are currently focused on developing housing initiatives, and I encourage all colleagues to promote the opportunity for residents across Newport to come forward and act as hosts. And I'm really proud of those cabinet and council colleagues who, within Newport City Council, who've been warm and generous enough to do this. So thank you to those colleagues who have done that. But to the members of the public, if you're watching this online, or to the media, if you choose to report this particular item, I would strongly encourage residents across the city to come forward as hosts. Now, at this point, colleagues, I think I'll just pause and open up for any contributions. Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Leader. You are right. The cost of living crisis is horrendous. People are now maxing out their credit cards to try and avoid asking for help. All I can say is it's the wrong thing to do. Piling on more debt that you already cannot afford is not the way forward. Just reach out, touch base with any of your councillors, no matter what the party is. Just go to your local councillor. There are events held, there is help out there. We are currently working through the community centres with the cost of living events being held regularly all over. And you know what? If worse comes to worse, just phone and ask for a full parcel. I still keep thinking when I wake up in the morning, have we gone in a time machine and we're back in 1923 instead of 2023? Because it feels like the war and the desperation and the absolute heartbreak of people trying to feed their kids. We have got mothers and fathers in work and still can't feed their own children. maxing out whatever they can get, whatever debt they can get. They're turning to payday loans. It's at least 100% interest. So every £5 you borrow, you're paying back a tenner. And if you miss any payments, that's added on to as well. So please don't go down that road. It's not the fix. It's not what you need. You need to contact us. We're here to help. All of us are on the phone constantly. Just please reach out. Do not fall into the trap of extra debt. It's not going to fix anything.
Thank you very much for your contribution there, Councillor Harvey, and you really illustrate there the very serious nature of the situation that we find ourselves in as a nation at this time. Councillor Marshall.
Diolch, Leader. Just a point, obviously, from the social services side and about those that are, unpaid carers, things like that there. It was really positive to see a number of different events occur recently. Armed Forces Day being one of them, so it's not just the, celebrating about the veterans, but also about what support they can get as well, which was really good that they could actually find out about the support, access the support, which was really, really good. There was also various events like in Tesco Cardiff Road with carers again, and unknown carers have basically come forward. Really good to get them support what's needed. Things like that there, especially when they don't have, say, monies and things like that there for Wi-Fi, as you alluded to. Things like loneliness and things like that, they're making sure that their relative is okay, things like that there, whoever they may be looking after. And just, kind of that reinforcement of, seeking that help, but also linking with community connectors. Sign up to the newsletter. There's cafes. There's really good stuff. Just basically, if you need to come out the house, have a tea or coffee, just get out there. If you need help and support, like I kind of got roped in the other day when I went to the Community Connectors Cafe the other day in the Riverfront. Someone needed help finding out about buses on the bus app, for example. More than happy to oblige to find out. And stuff like that there goes a long way to help them become independent, but that support. So it's all around. And on that basis, I think, even though we say that people don't have a lot, and it's really bad that they don't, they seem to be the ones that also try and give more back as well. So they'll do collective meals. They'll try and support the community a lot more. They know it. They feel it. So they'll try and help people because they have that, relativity within what's going on. So big, massive appreciation for those in the community as well. But there's a lot of positives out there amongst the steep, dark times. Thank you.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Marshall. Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to focus on Newport Education's approach to tackling all aspects of poverty. You quite rightly mentioned and spoke about universal school provision that will be rolled out from all our primary schools from the start of the autumn term. And we're actually ahead of Welsh Government expectations. I want to really thank our officers for ensuring that's happened. They worked incredibly hard to deliver on our manifesto commitment to make sure that every school is ready, every school will be ensuring that all children at primary school age will be delivered a free school meal, and I think that's outstanding. The uptake of children who want that free school meal already at foundation phase we've seen dramatically increasing. Initially some were still taking their packed lunches in, now we're seeing the uptake, and we know then we've got confidence that children are having a healthy meal and they can benefit from that. They'll continue to learn throughout the afternoon, and they'll go home with full stomachs, and it really makes a massive difference. I wanted to also focus on the work that we're also doing to support those children in poverty within our schools. As I announced previously, we've developed a strategy on tackling poverty within our schools, and this is actually progressing with enthusiasm, and essential work has actually continued during these difficult times. This can be seen through the development of the RADI programme and the work through around our community-focused schools. And this is going to be a continuing focus over the next 3 years as part of our service plan. Teachers have really welcomed this level of commitment from ourselves, this level of support, and they've engaged with the programme and what we're offering them. This means that they're now engaged with Children Wales to get the support and help they need. We've also worked with schools to promote the use of reducing the cost of school resources. We've completed school-based visits which includes listening to learners. As you've mentioned previously, a partnership was developed with the Bank of England, which has been putting financial awareness into the curriculum, and we're going to continue working with other partners, financial partners who've stepped forward, and they want to take that programme forward, which is excellent news. His issue been recently has been a newsletter that's gone out to all head teachers and to chairs of governors, and I know that's been distributed among governing bodies so that governors are now aware of the key priorities that schools have in relation to developing and tackling poverty. And of course we will continue to promote and offer any learning approaches that we're made aware of, and we will pass those on to our schools. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much for that, Deputy Leader. But again, really good examples of how we're engaging with our schools and trying to ensure that really our youngest and our most vulnerable really are cared for properly at this very difficult time. Councillor Batruni.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I just want to say it's wonderful to hear about all the amazing efforts all my Cabinet colleagues are doing, Cabinet Member Davis and Cabinet Member Harvey. But I want to reiterate what Councillor Hughes said. The Council and its workers and the people Stephen was talking about can only do so much. The mortgage bomb that we're going to experience, the whole country's going to experience, that Newport citizens are going to experience, is going to be pretty much unfathomable. 2 years ago, you could get a mortgage around 1%. Now you're looking at 6.6 remortgaging. You know, the average workout is about extra £500 per family, per household. Let's not underestimate what we're facing here, and there'll be a lag. So as people start to remortgage and find those huge pressures they're facing now, again, it'll be on the Council and the Council's employees and Cabinet members and the councillors to pick up the slack, and community organisations. But I know you and I know this Cabinet urge Westminster Government, the true people who can support these families, to step in. Now is the time. Don't wait a year down the line, 6 months down the line, a year and a half down the line, waiting for a general election. Do it now, because it'll just get worse.
Absolutely, Councillor Batruni. We're all with you there. Now is the time for intervention. So, any further comments or contributions from colleagues? Okay, so are you happy to note the contents of this report? So thank you all very much for your contributions today. We move then to item number 9, which is just our work programme. So are you content to move acceptance of the updated programme? And that draws our July Cabinet meeting to a close. Thank you all so much for your contributions today and for your continued efforts and hard work with your portfolios. Thank you, colleagues. Good evening.